All right, passing that case, recalling the case of State of Michigan versus Taisha Zerker, case number 21S00318. Are there any opening statements?
People waive opening.
All right,
Defense waives. So
all right. Openings being waived. You may call your first witness, Mr. Burdell.
People call Melissa Floyd.
All right. Your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I sure do.
All right. Thank you. You may lower your hand. Use your witness, Mr. Burdell. You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. All right, Ms. Floyd, could you please state your name for the record?
Melissa Ann Floyd.
And Ms. Floyd, I'd like to draw your attention to the date of April 18th of 2021. Now, did something happen at an address on Villa Drive in Ypsilanti Township on that date?
Yes, sir.
And what is at that location? Is it a home or is it a business? Or something
It
else?
is my personal living residence.
All right. Is it an apartment? Is it like a standalone house? What's it like?
It's a townhome.
Okay. And did that incident involve anybody that you see in the courtroom today? The virtual chat.
Yes.
All right. Would you please describe what that person is wearing and say their name for the record? Your Honor, I'd ask that the court instruct the defendant to
Turn your screen back on and don't do that again, please.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Floyd, can you describe what
She
they're wearing?
is, yes, her name is Taisha Zerker. She's wearing a black and white shirt and has look like fake weave on her hair.
All right. Your Honor, may the record please reflect the identification of the defendant.
Mr. Bannis, any objection?
Your Honor, I'm not sure Miss Floyd has sufficiently identified my client.
I mean, there's only one person wearing a black T-shirt in the courtroom.
That's fine. That's fine. No objection.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Now, the record shall reflect.
Thank you, Judge. So how do you know this individual, Ms. Floyd?
Well, to be totally honest, truthfully, I met this woman because she was a Washtenaw County worker I was involved with the CPS case with my son. She worked for this parent partner program, helping other people who's in the CPS, helping other parents get their children back from CPS.
Okay.
And going through her paperwork, she's supposedly has a child apparently with my child's father. I came to know all this going through my personal paperwork during my case with my son.
Okay. And so is she currently with, what's your child's father's name?
My son's father's name, Ibrahim Faluddin.
And is Ms. Zerker with Mr. Dean? Currently, like, do they currently have a relationship to your knowledge?
I believe so.
Okay. And were you on friendly terms with her on that April 18th of 2021 date?
No, sir, I was not.
All right. And did you come into contact with her on that date?
Yes, sir, I did.
All right. And how did that contact start? Where were you?
I was standing in the kitchen of my apartment with my back door open.
Mm-hmm.
And she invited herself to walk into my house.
And so when you said she invited herself to walk into your house, were you expecting her?
No.
Was she invited?
No.
Had you previously invited her to just walk into your house like that?
Not at all.
And now, What did you say when she first arrived? Strike that. What did you do? What was your first reaction when she first walked into your house?
My first reaction was to think to grab a weapon.
Okay, and what did you do?
I did not grab a weapon.
All right. Why were you thinking to do that? Why were you thinking to grab a weapon?
Because this person is like 10 times bigger than I am, and she was coming blatantly, like nonchalantly walked up my stairs and into my kitchen.
Okay.
So I didn't really have time to react, or like I didn't know what to think. I'm like, why are you here?
Okay. And did she say anything when she walked into your home?
No, she just kind of rushed in and grabbed my son.
Okay. And this is the son that is fathered by Mr. Abe Dean, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How old's your son?
He's 5.
All right. What's his name?
Amonte.
You said she rushed in and grabbed your son. Did she say anything when she was doing this?
No.
Okay. Did she tell you what she was doing or why she was doing it?
Nope.
Okay. And did she identify herself as was there anybody else? So you mentioned earlier that that Ms. Zerker is with CPS?
No, she worked for Judson Center.
Well, what's the Judson Center?
It's a multiple.
You're not, Your Honor, I'm sorry, Mr. Burdell, to object. I'm just going to object based on my perception that this might be speculation and not based on personal knowledge.
So I have a reason for this, Judge. I'm just trying to tease apart and make sure that she was there for personal reasons, not on CPS business, basically.
No.
Well, we'll get you, Mr. Floyd, the court has to rule first. Miss Floyd, sorry.
Mr. Bannis, why are you? I'm going to overrule that objection. I think she can testify about what the Judson Center is. She knows.
Okay, thank you.
To your personal knowledge, based on what you know, what is the Judson Center?
From what I know, it's like a foster care agency, adoption agency, I believe.
Okay. And when Ms. Zerker arrived, did she identify herself that she was on professional business?
No.
Okay. Was there anybody else with her at the time?
No.
Did she flash any sort of badge or paperwork or anything?
No.
Okay. And so I believe you said she came in, she didn't really say anything, and then she grabbed your son, Amonte, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then what happened next?
She started talking to me, trying to hug on me. I'm staying, like, get out of my house. Don't touch me.
So
get out of my house. Why are you here?
If I can stop you. So you said she was trying to hug on you?
Yeah.
Okay. What was she saying? You said she was talking to you and trying to hug on you. What was she saying? Do you remember?
Like, oh, I just want to talk to you, and like other thing. I really don't know, but the main, oh, I just want to talk to you and this and that. Okay.
Do you remember her demeanor? Like, what was her attitude? What was her body language?
Very snarky, very conniving. Like, oh, I'm here without your permission, but very snarky, very like demeaning.
Okay. And what was your response to that?
I didn't know what to do, but I just kept saying, I did not pick up a weapon because I had seen my son was standing right there. I didn't want to do that. So I was trying anything and everything to get this woman to get out of my house.
Okay.
So what I did is I picked my son up out of the kitchen and I went around this woman, put my son in the car,
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, I put my child in the back seat. I'm going around to the driver's seat. She snatches my son out of the back seat. My father's standing right there at that time.
So now up to this point, before, other than when she picked up Amante, had there been any kind of physical contact?
Yep.
Okay.
In the house, yep. She had been like chest bumping me, pressing herself up against me, trying to hug on me. Oh, I just want to talk to you. I just want to friendly. It's friendly. It's not friendly. And I didn't want her there.
Okay. Now, did she say why she was trying to grab your son this whole time?
No.
So you're back in the car and you said I think you said she snatched Amante out of the car. Was Amante in the back seat or the front seat, or where was he?
I put him in his car seat in the back passenger side.
Okay. And what was your reaction did she say anything before she took him out of the car?
If she would have said it to my father, because my father was standing right there.
Okay, but nothing to your knowledge that you heard and could testify to. Okay. And where were you when this was happening, when she was pulling him out of the car?
I had by that time gotten in the driver's seat, shut the door, and started the car.
Okay. And what did you do when she grabbed Amante?
I opened my driver door, exited the vehicle, went around to try to grab my son, at which time she put him down and raised up her fist and like she was going to fight me.
And what was the rest of her attitude like? What was her body language?
Like a bully, like pushy, very, very pushy, like I'm going to run this, I'm doing this, there's nothing you can do about it.
Was that what she was? Is that what she was saying, or is that just what her body language looked like?
You asked me what her body language was.
Okay. And did she say anything?
Did she say anything at which point?
So when she's standing there you said she was standing there like a bully and she had her fist up?
Like this, yeah, but no, she didn't say anything, no.
Okay, and what happened
Record
next?
should reflect that she has held her two fists up in front of her face as if she's in a fighting stance position.
Thank you, Judge. Now, what happened next?
She put my son down, and then she pushed up against me. At that time, I'm standing against my truck, and she's up against me at that time. My father is standing over here.
Okay. And I'm just taking notes. And what happened next?
She was saying things, but I cannot recall what she was saying. And then she said something before that. I don't recall verbatim what it was, but then she slapped me. And my father was standing right there.
Okay. Do you remember maybe you can't recall verbatim, but do you remember kind of what she was saying before she slapped you?
No, and I was in shock. It happened very. I was just trying to react the best way that I knew how.
Kind of breaking up there a little bit. I think we got to re-say that. Can you let's back up there because we kind of lost connection there for a second. You said you were trying to react the best way that you knew how. And then what happened?
Let's stop her video and see if that might help with the audio quality.
I think it might.
Floyd, we're going to stop your video to see if we can hear your voice better. Okay, ma'am?
All right, Ms. Floyd.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yeah, we turned your video off because the connection was bad, and sometimes that helps. That's why we did that. That's why the court did
Okay.
that. So I think you said,
right.
So let's walk. I kind of lost where we were at here. So you said she was, What was your reaction when she slapped you?
Nothing. Like shocked. Like, okay. And then I knew the next step. Really, I didn't do anything because I knew the next step after it was all over. After I did get rid of this woman, I was going straight to the police station to file a report anyway.
Okay. And so, now did she slap you with an open hand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you remember if it was a right hand or a left hand? If you can remember.
She would be facing me, which would make it her left side on the right side of my face.
Okay. And now I know you said you can't recall verbatim what she said, but do you recall kind of anything about what she was saying?
Objection. Just asked and answered. I think she clearly said she didn't remember.
Well, she said she didn't remember verbatim, but I'm asking for just sort of a clarifying question.
Well, actually, I remember it different than either one of you. I think she was saying that she didn't remember what she said when she was inside of the home. I don't remember her discussing what she said in detail outside of the home. So I would like it rephrased to discuss what happened outside.
Sure. So just before she slapped you, Miss Floyd, do you remember generally what she was talking about?
No, you know, my main motive of operandi of this whole situation was to defuse the situation, get her out of my presence as fast as possible with as minimal force as possible. So I really wasn't focused too much on what the woman was saying verbally. I was just trying to get her out of my presence in the less aggressive way that I knew how to.
Okay. And so after she slapped you, what happened next?
I believe she just turned around and started walking away, and then some man grabbed her. It wasn't my son's father, but some other man came from the other side of my fence and grabbed Taisha, and then they walked away.
Okay, and was this some man that you'd never seen before?
Some man I've never seen before.
All right, did you eventually find out who that person was?
No, I did not.
Okay. Now, was that the last you saw of Miss Zerker that day?
Yes, it is.
So, Judge, I'm going to share my screen if that's all right.
Yes, you may.
So, and Mr. Banis, these come from the police report. These are on page 14 in the PDF. For those of you following along at home. So, Miss
Floyd.
Miss Floyd. Sorry, Judge, doing too many things at once. Miss Floyd, can you see my screen here?
Yes.
All right. Is this, who is this in the picture? Is this you?
Yes, sir.
And we looked at these pictures just before we had, we took earlier today, right?
Uh-huh.
And have
Say
these,
yes. I need you to say yes or no, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
have these pictures been edited or changed in any way?
No, sir.
Do they accurately depict how you looked on that day?
Yes, sir.
When were they taken?
Just a couple hours after the incident.
Okay. And is there anything you notice about these pictures? About this picture?
No.
Okay. And what about this picture? Is anything, is that a little redness on that picture that I'm looking at, or?
Objection.
Yeah.
Leading,
Yeah.
leading.
Any response to the leading?
There's no marks on the face. Come on.
Any response to the leading? If not, whether it's not, I agree it's leading.
Judge, I'll move on. I mean, the court can see the pictures for itself. It's a bench trial.
I have no objection to admission of these photos into evidence, by the way, Your Honor. And Mr. Burdell, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And well, Judge, I'll just move to. I'll put these in all as the same exhibit, People's Exhibit 1, and move to publish.
Thank you.
Move to admit.
The court will accept Exhibit 1, which will be how many pictures?
It's just two.
2 pictures. The first one that you already published and the one you just published now, and I would receive both of those.
And I will stop sharing.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, Ms. Floyd, had you had previous interactions with Ms. Zerker?
Have I had previous interactions with her prior to this incident?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. And so did she ever say why she was over to get your son, or why she was trying to take your son?
No, sir, she did not.
Okay. I have nothing further at this time, Judge.
Thank you. Your witness, Mr. Banas.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hi, Ms. Floyd. I'm the attorney. I represent Ms. Zerker, so I'm going to ask you a few questions, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Now, we're talking about April 18th, 2021, so it was more than a year ago. You testified under oath that Ms. Zerker walked into your home on that day, correct?
Yes.
Do you remember what time of the day it was?
I believe roughly around 2 o'clock.
2 p.m., so 2 in the afternoon?
Yes.
Okay. What's your relation? I'm sorry, what?
Between 2 and 2:30, I believe.
2 p.m. to 2:30. Okay, thank you. Who's the father of Amante?
Ibrahim Dean.
Okay. And what is your current relationship with Mr. Dean?
I haven't spoke to him in a very long time.
How old is Amante?
He is 5.
Do you have any personal knowledge of Ms. Zerker's relationship with Mr. Dean?
She's claimed she has a child with him as well, and they talk on a regular basis.
Okay. So you're saying that to your knowledge, well, of course, you know you have a child with Mr. Dean who's named Amante.
Yeah.
And you're saying that Ms. Zerker also has a child with Mr. Dean, correct?
That's what she claims, yes. I don't know that for a fact.
Now, does it bother you in any way that Ms. Zerker and Mr. Dean have a child together?
Why would I care about that?
I don't
care
know.
about my
I'm asking
own
you.
child.
So I'll just repeat my question. Do you have any bad feelings or negative feelings towards Ms. Zerker because she has a relationship with the father of your child?
No.
Does Ms. Zerker have any legal custody over Amante?
No, sir.
Why would Ms. Zerker, if you have knowledge about it, come over to your house and pick up Amante if she has nothing to do with Amante? Amante is not her child, right?
Right, but sir, I think it's quite the contrary. You asked me if I had some ill feelings about my son's father and this woman having a relationship. Well, maybe she's a little bit jealous that I have a child with him. And she walked in my house on his birthday. Maybe she was giving him a birthday gift. That was on his birthday, actually. 4/18 is my son's father's birthday.
So did she try to give Amante a birthday gift?
No, April 18th is Ibrahim's birthday. I feel like this woman has some animosity toward me.
Why do you feel that?
Because this woman has also put herself, my son's father previously tried to file custody through front of the court, and her name is in that custody paperwork that my son's father had to type up for like a request for custody. You have to write something, reasons and witnesses why you feel that you should have custody. Well, and this woman's name, Taisha Zucker, was in his paperwork as it relates to custody for my child. And I can prove that.
So are you saying that Mr. Dean, the father of Amante, is trying to obtain custody of Amante?
I do believe so, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. You stated at some point when the prosecutor was asking you questions that Ms. Zerker slapped you, correct? On April 28th? On April 18th?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And those photos of you were from that same day, correct?
Yes, sir.
But there was no mark on your face, right? Would you agree to that?
No, she did not leave a mark.
So, would you agree that Ms. Zerker has really no connection to Amante other than the fact that Mr. Dean is the father of Amante?
I believe she's a little envious and wants to maybe take my child and raise my child with him. But no, the woman has no right, no reason to have anything on this earth to do with my child. None whatsoever.
Thank you, Ms. Floyd. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Any redirect, Mr. Burdell?
Not at this time, Judge.
Thank you. All right, you may proceed.
Mr. TJ Floyd. People call TJ Floyd.
Hit the button that says unmute, sir. Hit the button.
Okay, unmute.
You're all set. There you go. Thank you.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear
Okay.
affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, thank you. You may lower your hand. Your witness, Mr. Floyd, please make
Yes.
sure that when questions are yes or no questions, you say yes or no. No mm-hms or uh-uhs, because the court can't pick those up, okay? So you have to say yes or no.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. You may proceed, Mr. Burdell.
All right, thank you, Judge. All right, Mr. Floyd, I'd like to draw your attention to April 18th of 2021. Did something unusual occur that day which brings you here?
Yes.
And did that occur on Villa Drive in Ypsilanti Township?
Yes.
And what is that address?
578 Villa Drive, I believe.
I mean, well, I guess, what is
578.
there? Is it a business? Is it a home? Is it something else?
Oh, it's apartment complex, Arbor One.
And who lives there?
My daughter.
And what were you doing there that day?
She picked me up and took me over there to get an inhaler for my COPD. She had an extra one.
Okay. And did you come into contact with the defendant, Miss Taisha Zerker?
Yes.
Had you met her before that day?
No.
And where were you when you first came into contact with her?
I was standing in the yard at the back door where my daughter had her truck parked.
All right. And how did you come into contact with her? What was she doing?
Well, she walked up from around the corner of the apartment building, and that's how I first seen her.
Did she say anything?
Yes, she asked me if Melissa was around her. She may have asked me who I was. I said I was Melissa's father. And then she asked me if Melissa was around.
All right. And what'd you say?
I said yes.
And do you remember her attitude or her demeanor at the time?
Seemed normal to me at the time.
Okay. And
or like I said, I didn't know, anything about her.
all right. And what happened next?
She asked me where Melissa was. I said she was in the house. And then she walked in the house there, and I heard screaming and arguing, and my daughter telling her to get out of the house and calling each other names and such.
Okay. And could you hear what they were arguing about?
Basically, her being in the house. I heard my daughter say, "You just walk right in," and this and that, and something like that, to that effect.
Okay.
I didn't know that her and my daughter weren't getting along or whatever.
And now you had not invited Mrs. Zerker over to the home that day, correct?
No, I'd never spoke to her before that moment.
Okay. And now you said you heard arguing. It was between Melissa Floyd and the defendant, Miss Zerker, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so what were you doing while this was happening?
Standing outside the apartment.
Right. And how long do you think the argument went on?
Probably just a couple minutes.
Okay. And what happened next?
Well, they both came out of the apartment and proceeded with the altercation.
Okay. So who came out of the apartment first?
I'm not sure. Probably what's her name? Taisha.
Okay. All right. And then what happened? What was everybody's demeanor at that time?
They were both pretty fired up, arguing. I was kind of dumbfounded about it. I didn't know what was going on.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you remember what they were arguing about?
No, I don't.
Okay.
About her being in the apartment, I guess. Her walking in, and I guess my daughter didn't want her nowhere around or to know where she lived or anything. I guess I don't know.
Okay. And what happened
from it?
Okay, understood. And what happened next?
Well, then we were standing by the vehicle, and I don't know really what happened next. Everything happened so quickly. I was telling them to calm down, and then Taisha went to take my daughter's son out of the back seat, and my daughter called her more names, and then she ended up slapping my daughter.
Okay. And this is Amante, is your daughter's son?
Yes.
Okay. And you said she slapped your daughter, that being the defendant?
Yes.
Did she say anything just before or after she slapped your daughter?
Oh, my daughter went hysterical, started screaming, and, she was hit, and to put her son down and leave her alone and to leave, and,
okay.
That's
and, all right. And then what happened next?
More cussing back and forth and name calling, and Daisha threatening to take her son, and I don't know. It was just one big mess, two women going at it.
And did Miss Zerker eventually leave?
Yes.
All right. Describe what happened when she left. How did she leave?
Well, she just walked back around the corner where she, came up to the apartment first at, and, my daughter was all hysterical over it, and, saying she had no right to walk up and hit her, and, the argument shouldn't have, I was trying to apologize to my daughter. I said, hey, I'd have tried to restrain her from walking in if I'd have known, that you guys you didn't like her. I didn't know her.
Sure. Okay. And was that the last you saw of Miss Zerker that day?
Yes, that's the only time I've ever seen her.
And do you recall about what time of day this occurred?
Probably, I don't know, 1 o'clock-ish. I don't know. I'm not really sure. It was daytime, I know that. Not real late. 11 o'clock, 12, 1, something like that. I don't really know. Something like that.
Sometime in the early afternoon, though, basically.
Yes,
Generally.
yes.
Okay. Judge, I have nothing further at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Your witness, Mr. Banis.
Mr. Floyd, I'm going to ask you a few questions, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, sir. You said you are Melissa's father, is that correct?
Melissa, yes.
Are you her biological father?
Yes.
You're not her foster father?
Objection as to
No.
relevance. Girl.
Response to the relevance objection, Mr. Banis?
Well, that's fine, Your Honor. He already testified he's her biological
Yeah.
father. I'll move on. So I'll withdraw the question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. So you had never seen Ms. Zerker prior to this date, is that correct?
That's correct. Never have.
Okay. And you really don't have any knowledge about why she came over allegedly to the location?
No.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about that. I don't know. It seemed like she was trying to take my daughter's son, and I don't know if she was going to take him over to his biological father's or something, or just snatch him up or something, or try to knock my daughter off her square. So I think that her boyfriend
Okay,
at the time.
I asked the question and you answered it, so that's
Right.
fine. Thank you, sir. The prosecutor can follow up if he has additional questions for you.
Okay.
So I think you testified this occurred sometime in the early afternoon, to the best of your recollection. Is that true?
Yes, it was daylight. I wouldn't say it was late afternoon. I'd say early. I don't know, something like that. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Or slightly before noon. I'm not sure. It was around that time of day.
Okay. So what's your relationship to Amante? Are you his grandfather?
Yes.
Okay. I believe you, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that Ms. Zerker walked into the house, correct?
Correct.
And you were outside at that time?
Yes.
Okay. So it sounds like, but correct me if I'm wrong, you really don't know if Melissa allowed Ms. Zerker into the house or not, because you were outside at the time.
No, I didn't hear anybody say come in. It's like, you know.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions for Mr. Floyd, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect, Mr. Riddell?
No, Judge.
Thank you. May this witness be excused.
Yes, Judge. People have nothing further from this gentleman.
And you don't want him in the waiting room. You're not going to recall him in rebuttal.
I don't plan on it. I'll defer to Mr. Banis if he wants that, but I don't plan on it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Banis.
I don't really have any objection to Mr. Floyd staying if he wishes to.
Okay. Mr. Floyd, you're welcome to stay here if you want. That wasn't really my question, but that's fine too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Floyd, if you want to stay in the virtual courtroom, you want. If you want to hang up, you can do that as well. My question was really, do you want him in the virtual waiting room in the event he needs to be recalled in this case?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Floyd, you're welcome to stay if you want to, sir.
Okay.
If you could remute your device, that would be helpful.
Oh, okay. Or how about if I just hang up and my daughter's got my phone number. I think it might show up there. If you need me, just call me. I'll be by my phone.
I'll call and let you know what happens, Dad. I love
Okay.
you.
All
Love
right,
you.
thank you. Bye, Mr. Floyd.
Love you,
Bye.
Daddy. All right.
All right. Any further witnesses, Mr. Riddell?
Nothing from the people, Judge. Thank you.
All right, Mr. And the people rest.
The people rest. Yes, Judge.
Thank you. Mr. Banis?
Yes, Your Honor. I will call Ms. Zerker as my first witness, and she is aware that she is not required to testify, but she is choosing to do so.
All right, thank you. Ms. Zerker? If you could unmute your device, please, ma'am. All right.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Ms. Zerker. Just so that the record is clear, you have a constitutional right to remain silent if you so choose. And nothing, your silence cannot be used against you and here in the court of law. And if you do testify today, it's possible that anything you say may be used against you. Do you understand that, ma'am?
Yes.
And so are you giving up your right to remain silent and choosing to testify? She just disappeared. She's in the waiting room. I'm letting her back in.
Hello.
Yes, hello, Ms. Zerker.
Hi. I'm so sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead, and then I also Taisha Zerger. I'm sorry.
Thank you. So what I was explaining, Ms. Zerker, is that you have an absolute right not to testify, and that you can so choose to testify if you want by waiving that right, but anything you say can and will likely be used against you in a court of law. Do you understand that, ma'am?
Yes, I do understand.
And you're giving up your right today?
Yes, I am.
Please raise your right hand and be sworn. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
You may lower your hand now. I'm pretty sure you heard me when I explained to everyone else that you have to answer yes or no to any questions, and that you should, I think that's it. You may begin, Mr. Bannis.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I have just one thing. I'm so sorry. I dropped my car because I have an emergency with my children at the school. And I'm probably gonna have to head in that direction, which means I'm not sure what service is gonna be like in the car trying to do all this.
Mr. Bannis, do you want a moment to speak with your client?
Ms. Zerker, are you saying there's some emergency at the school? You need to leave to pick up your children?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure that out. They had a ride. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm getting phone calls. He's good. Okay, never mind. He's good. Okay, we got it figured out.
Okay,
I'm
good.
sorry. I just was panicking, and I'm sorry. But okay.
No, I understand. That's
okay.
We all go through that. So, okay, Ms. Zerker, I am going to ask you some questions about what happened on April 18th, 2021. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So first of all, what is your relationship to Abe Dean?
He and I co-parent my fourth son, Calvin Zerker.
All right. So your son with Mr. Dean's name is Calvin. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, to your knowledge, if you know, does Mr. Dean have a child with Miss Melissa Floyd?
Yes.
And what is that child's name?
Monty.
Okay. Do you, other than the fact that Mr. Dean has, Amante is Mr. Dean's child also, do you have any relationship with Amante? Do you have any legal relationship relating to Amante or anything whatsoever relating to Amante?
I currently do not. In the past, I was a caretaker.
Okay, I'm going to follow up with some additional questions, but I want to ask you right up front. At any point in time on April 18th, 2021, did you go to Melissa Floyd's residence on Villa Drive?
I did not go there.
Who was there with you that day on April 18th, 2021 at your home?
Well, all four of my children were with me the entire day. However, part of that morning, Mr. Dean was at my home visiting Calvin. And in the evening, I was with a friend, Tia Wright. We were playing cards.
Do you recall what hours of the day Mr. Dean was at your home that day visiting your son, Calvin?
I can't give you a specific time, but I do know that he called me sometime after 8 and arrived at my house about an hour later. He stayed until about 5. He walked home.
Okay, so I'm trying not to ask a leading question, but it sounds like you just said he was there from approximately 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
It was more like 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. because he walked back and forth, so it took him a little while to get to my house. We live a few miles apart.
And what did he do at your house during that day?
So when he arrived, Calvin opened the door for him, and they were downstairs. He bought Calvin an airplane or some type of airplane. He showed that to him. Calvin wished him a happy birthday. They hung out. I think they played video games for a little while. I'm not 100% sure because I wasn't downstairs the entire time. I was up in my room, and I was preparing for my friend. We were talking about playing cards and stuff.
And your friend, you said, was Tia, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
What time did Tia arrive at your house, if you remember?
I know it wasn't too dark out, but it had to have been sometime after 6 o'clock, maybe like 6:30.
Okay. So while so Mr. Dean, what's his nickname?
Abe.
Okay, so I'm gonna refer to him as Abe, and he's the father of your child, Calvin, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Abe was there, you said, from around 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Were you also at the home the entire time?
Yes, the entire morning I was at the home, yes.
So you were home the entire morning. Did you ever leave?
Yes.
At what time did you leave, and why did you leave?
I left after Abe left, so about 5:30, and I walked to a local gas station that's by my house. I picked up a deck of cards, and I picked up some like little cooler drinks, like daiquiris.
And you said, is it true that, what time did Tia, I'm sorry, you already said Tia arrived at around 6 or 6:30 p.m., is that correct?
About 6:30 she arrived.
Okay, so is it correct that Abe left at around 5 p.m.?
Roughly, yes. He left about
Roughly,
4
okay.
p.m. Yeah.
And is it correct that Tia arrived at around 6 or 6:30 p.m.?
She arrived around 6:30, yes.
Okay, and is it correct that the only time you left your home was around 5:30 p.m. to go to the gas station, like you just said?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a BP.
How did you get there? Did you walk or drive or some other way?
I walked.
And you mentioned something about cards. Why did you go to that gas station?
Because I had talked to Tia earlier that day. She and I was supposed to go on a jog that morning, and we had canceled. So I ended up making plans with her to meet later on in the evening, and we were going to play cards. And we were going to have drinks and stuff too. So.
Okay. And at the gas station, what did you at the BP, what did you purchase?
So I bought these little margarita can things, some daiquiris. I bought 2 of them, one for her, one for me. And I bought a deck of cards. Of like just regular playing cards.
Did you end up playing any cards with Tia later that night?
Yeah, she sat at my house for a few hours. Shortly after she left, I got a phone call from a police officer.
So on April 18th, 2021, were you ever in actual physical contact in any way with Melissa Floyd?
No, I was not at her home. I did not slap her. I was not in a stance like this and holding her baby and slapped her.
Okay.
I was home with my family.
Okay. But have you ever had contact with Miss Floyd in the past?
Yes, I was her parent partner.
Okay.
As well as her friend after I removed myself from her case.
On April 18th, 2021, or any time after that date, did Ms. Floyd ever talk to you or contact you or anything?
She contacted me the night of.
What did she say?
Calling me. She didn't say
Objection
anything.
calls for hearsay.
She just was on the phone breathing.
Ms.
Hold on, Ms. Zerker.
Response, Mr. Banis.
Your Honor, I guess if it's an out-of-court statement, that would be hearsay.
Me being at her house is hearsay.
No, it's not. ma'am.
Hold on, Ms. Zerker. Your Honor, that's fine. I'll move on. Have you and Ms. Floyd had, well, first of all, Amante is not your child, correct?
Monty is not my child. No,
Okay.
I have only been a caretaker of him. I've babysat and provided for him.
Okay. All right. I have no further questions for Ms. Zerker at this time, Your Honor. Maybe possibly on redirect.
Mr. Burdell, your witness.
Thank you, Judge. All right, Ms. Zerker, I'm going to ask you some questions here. I'm not trying to, I know we're on, I'm not trying to trick you or trap you or get you any gotchas here. So if you don't understand what I'm asking, feel free to, let me know and I'll try to rephrase it in a different way or anything like that. All right.
Okay.
So it sounds like at one point you were, if not friends, at least friendly with Melissa Floyd.
She and I were friends.
Okay. And, but then here we are with this case.
Unfortunately.
So you remember a lot about this day. Was there anything special for you about what happened this day?
I remember a lot about it being a regular, normal day for me and my children and my friends. I usually have a lot of people at my home. I usually spend a lot of time with my children outside of my work life. So,
okay. Do you play cards with Miss Wright often?
Yes.
Okay. How often do you play cards?
A few times a month with her and a few other friends, but majority of the time with her.
Okay. And so you said that, I'm just trying to read my own notes here. The Miss Dean came over at about, I'm sorry, Mr. Dean was there from about 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then he left it around 5 p.m.
Objection. That's a mischaracterization of her testimony.
Okay. Well, I guess
she said 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay. Thank you.
I agree with the objection. And
okay, thank you. I was just trying to clarify. Thank you. So but he was there about 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Yes.
Okay. And then after he left, and then Miss Dean came over. I'm sorry, Miss Tia. What's Tia's last name?
Right.
Right. Thank you. Miss Wright arrived after 6 p.m.
Yes, 6:30.
And you said that you kind of walked through a lot about what Calvin did. Calvin is the son that you have with Mr. Dean?
Yes.
Okay, so it seems like you remember a lot of details about what they were doing, right?
No, I don't. I said that I wasn't quite sure what all they did, but at some point they were playing video games.
Yeah.
I was upstairs in my bedroom.
We talked about how, Calvin, if the way I recall it, I believe you testified that Calvin walked in, he let Mr. Dean in, Mr. Dean bought Calvin an airplane, and then I believe you said they were playing video games, and at that time you were talking to Ms. Wright. Is that correct?
A few hours later, I was talking to Ms. Wright, yes.
Okay.
But the airplane, he came in the door with that. So I didn't see them play with it or put it together. I just saw it in the box.
Okay. So, I mean, this sounds like a fairly regular day. Wouldn't you say? How do you remember it so well?
Because Abe always spends time at my house with Calvin.
Okay.
Tia and I play cards a lot. I normally tend to invite a lot of friends over for card games. I'm a very active person. I host a lot of dinner parties and things like that at my house for my family and friends.
So it sounds like this is sort of a regular occurrence for you.
I wouldn't say regular. I just would say it's normal.
So do you say it's similar? It's similar to a lot of other days?
Something that I probably do maybe 2 or 3 times a month.
Okay. So I guess my question to you is, how do you remember this specific day so specifically and not have it get mixed up with the other days?
I remember this specific
argumentative.
day because...
Objection, Ms. Zerker, hold on. She's answering the questions. She's under oath. Objection, argumentative.
Response.
Judge, I don't think it's argumentative. I just trying to figure out why she remembers this day specifically. I don't think it's argumentative.
Answered to the best of her ability. If you don't like the answer, you can make your arguments around that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The objection is sustained.
Thank you, Judge. I have nothing further, Judge.
Thank you. Any redirect, Mr.
No redirect. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next witness, please.
Your Honor, I would like to call Mr. Ibrahim Dean, aka Abe.
Good afternoon, sir. Could you please state your name for the record?
Yes, Ibrahim Dean.
All right, sir. Would you please raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, on the penalties of perjury, sir?
Yes.
All right, thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hi, Mr. Dean. I am Ms. Zerker's lawyer, and I'm going to ask you a few questions about, to the extent you can remember, what happened on April 18th, 2021, okay?
Yes.
Do you and Ms. Zerker have a child in common?
Yes.
What is that child's name?
Calvin.
Okay. Do you and Melissa Floyd have a child in common?
Yes.
And what is that child's name?
Amonte.
Okay. On April 18th, 2021, were you at Ms. Zerker's residence at any time that day?
Yes.
Do you remember what time of the day approximately you were there, when you arrived and when you left?
Yeah, I arrived shortly around 10 o'clock because it was early in the morning and because it was my birthday. So I wanted to see my son. And I left probably a little close to possibly a little after 5 o'clock, around 5 o'clock. Because it was starting to get dark out. That's pretty much the extent I know.
Okay.
It was probably a little after 5 o'clock.
And what did you do while you were at Ms. Zerker's residence from approximately 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.?
Sure. I played Xbox with Calvin. We played some basketball. We played with his little flying drone. For the most part, I just was really hanging out with him, jumping around Xbox, and yeah.
Okay. And you said that was your birthday?
Yeah.
All right. And was Ms. Zerker with you the whole time or not?
No.
Where was she?
She was pretty much around, I guess, out and about. At first she was with her boyfriend. So I pretty much was with Calvin. I didn't really pay them much mind.
Was she at the house?
That I know of. When I got there, yeah. During the whole time, I don't know where anybody really was besides Calvin.
Okay. Where were you in Calvin? What part of the house?
The living room.
Okay. Were you and Calvin ever in any other room of the house?
At one, the kitchen.
Okay. Do you know someone named Tia Wright?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you recall if she was at Ms. Zerker's residence on April 18, 2021?
Yes, she was.
Do you remember what time she arrived?
No, I do not.
Your Honor, I don't have any further direct questions for Mr. Dean at this point.
Mr. Burdell.
Thank you, Judge. So, Mr. Dean, so I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm not trying to trick you or trap you or get sneaky or clever with you. So if you have any questions that you have a hard time, that maybe if I don't phrase it correctly or I don't explain it well, it's not because I'm trying to trick you, but just let me know and I can try to rephrase it, okay?
Okay.
So I believe you said you got there in the morning and you were at the defendant's house until about 5 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. And you said you spent most of your time with your son Calvin, right?
Right. Correct.
And so So let's get the house layout here. So were you in the same room, or were you in a totally separate part of the house from the defendant, from Miss?
I was in a totally separate part of the house.
Right. And would she come in regularly and check in on you guys and say hello, or was she just kind of doing her own thing?
Doing her own thing.
And so did you go with long stretches of time without even seeing her that day?
Yeah.
So
pretty much most of the time I didn't see her. I was with Calvin, so
okay.
I guess, and we have that mutual trust. So,
and from where you were sitting with Calvin, could you see the exits to the house?
I could only see the front door.
Is there a back door?
Yeah.
And if somebody were to leave that back door, would you know it?
I'd leave out the back door.
Yeah.
Honestly, not really, because of her other children, her other kids.
A lot of kids kind of coming and going.
Yeah, I was going to say people were kind of running around.
Okay. And so if Miss Zerker was to leave the house for a half hour, 45 minutes, would you know that?
I mean, I'd assume I would have seen it, because unless she didn't go out the front door, which I don't know why she would not.
But if she would have gone out the back door, it's possible.
If she would have went out the back door, there's a chance I probably wouldn't have even known, because my attention was on my son.
Okay. Pretty focused on your kid on Calvin there.
Yeah.
Okay. I have nothing further, Judge.
Thank you. Any redirect?
No, nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. May this witness be excused.
Yes,
I have nothing further, Judge.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dean. You are free to leave. You can stay if you so choose, or you can leave the space.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Have a good day, sir.
You too.
Next witness, please.
Judge, I'm sorry, Judge. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Banis. I actually have an objection to Ms. Tia Wright as to relevance. We've heard both through Ms. Zerker's own testimony that Miss Wright didn't show up until 6 o'clock at night. The allegation is that this occurred earlier in the day. The fact that she appeared so much later in the day means that she's not relevant to this case. This could have occurred well hours before Miss Wright appeared on the scene.
Mr. Banis, what is the relevance of her testimony if she didn't arrive until 6:30?
Your Honor, I would like to ask Ms. Wright to confirm when she arrived, and I agree if she testifies that she didn't arrive till then that's fine.
Zerker already testified to that.
I'm sorry, what?
Ms. Zerker already testified that she didn't arrive until 6:30.
Okay, that's fine. No problem.
I mean, if you can feel free to do that, you know what, I'm going to allow him to do that. And the questions are going to be limited to what time did she arrive first?
It'll be very brief. I mean, I think it's relevant that Ms. Zerker was at her home that day, but I fully agree that the
If she
time...
was at home at 6:30 when something happened at 2 is not relevant.
I understand.
That's right.
Hello.
Thank you, ma'am. Could you please turn on your video? Thank you. Please raise your right hand to be sworn, ma'am. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right. Ma'am, please tell us your first and last name.
Tia Wright.
All right. Mr. Banis, before you begin any extensive questioning, the question is limited to what time did she arrive?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll just ask if it's okay, just some very, I think, acceptable foundational type questions. Ms. Wright, do you know someone named Taisha Zerker?
Yes.
Okay. On April 18th, 2021, do you remember where you were that day?
I went over Taisha's house.
Okay.
I'm not really sure about what time I got there.
Was it during the day or during the night, if you remember?
It was during the day.
To the best of your recollection, well, let me ask this. Do you remember what you did at her house that day?
Yeah, we were We were playing cards at her kitchen table.
Okay. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure. Did you say it was day or night when you arrived?
It was during the day. The sun was still out.
Okay. And this was April 2021, so it's kind of springtime in Michigan.
Right.
To the best of your recollection, and you can't speculate, but can you tell us when you arrived at her house that day?
I'm not 100% sure. I just know it was during the day, and I stayed pretty much all day. Well, I was there all day until the night.
Do you remember what time you left?
I want to say maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Okay. Was Taisha at the house with you the whole time you were there or not?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Burdell, your witness.
I have no questions, Judge.
I have some questions. Ms. Wright, who was at the home when you were there?
Calvin and Abe was there when I first got there.
Who was there?
Calvin, her son, and Abe.
When you first got there?
Yes.
And then what happened?
Um,
You said when you first got there, did something change about them being there?
he left for a minute.
Who left
I'm
for a
trying to
minute?
think. What did we do when we first got there? I'm not really.
Who left for a minute, ma'am?
Abe.
Okay. And is Abe the same as Mr. Ibrahim Dean?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And so when you arrived there, he was there?
Yes.
And
But
then
he left shortly after I got there.
he left shortly after you got there. When you arrived there, ma'am, do you have any way of determining an approximate time that you got there?
No, not really. I can't say for sure because honestly I don't remember.
Okay.
I do know we were there. We were talking, playing cards, in her kitchen.
At some point in time, did Ms. Zerker become upset about something?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right, I have no further questions. Any follow-up based on that, Mr. Bannis? It's your witness, so I'll let you begin.
Well, I think to be fair and candid, it is important to try to determine when she arrived. So you said that Mr. Dean left shortly after you got there?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes, ma'am?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
How many minutes, just try to the best of your recollection, did he leave after you got there? Was it 30 minutes, 15 minutes?
No, it was a little longer, I want to say, than 15 minutes. But yeah, I'm not really sure.
Well, let me put it this way. Hypothetically,
Mm-hmm.
if he left at 5 p.m., when do you think you arrived?
Maybe. I'm not sure then. Maybe.
Because you said it was daytime.
She said she's not sure. She doesn't know.
Okay, that's fine. No further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Burdell?
I do, Judge. Ms. Wright, at any point did Ms. Zerker leave and then come back?
I don't think so. I can't really remember the day. I did have a few drinks when I was at her house.
Okay.
I don't think she left.
I have nothing further, Judge. Thank you, Ms. Wright.
Thank you. Any
Your Honor, I just have some quick follow-up, if I may.
You may quickly.
Ms. Wright,
Yes.
What were you and Ms. Zerker doing while you were there?
She already
We were
answered that.
talking, playing cards like we normally do.
You can
Okay.
ask questions that have not been asked already, Mr. Banis.
I know, Your Honor. She said, is there any reason you would have been out of the room, in a separate room from Ms. Zerker?
Maybe a bathroom break. That's probably it. I don't think I left anywhere.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. May this witness be excused.
Yes.
All right. You may, any further witnesses, Mr. Banis?
No, Your Honor. Defense rests. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Closing arguments, Mr. Brudel.
Sorry, excuse me.
Of course.
All right, thank you, Judge. So this case ended up being a lot more sort of nebulous around the edges than I think we all expected. I think in this case, I think on paper, it's very straightforward. It's A and B, entering without owner's permission, simple misdemeanors, court deals with all the time. Everybody in here deals with all the time. The attorneys anyway. I think this ended up being a lot more complicated than we all realized. I think we heard testimony from Ms. Floyd and Mr. Floyd. Mr. Floyd's testimony generally backed up the testimony from Melissa Floyd. Melissa testified that she was in her house, that the defendant walked in and grabbed her and tried to grab her son. Take the son away, back to Mr. Dean, who they both have children in common with. She testified that there was chest bumping and that she was trying to hug on her. I think that sort of trying to wrap her up was the way I interpreted that. The court heard the testimony, so I won't go any more speculation what I believe she meant by hug on her. She said that she was, I believe that the word she used was snarky.
She said snugly.
Snugly. Thank you.
No, I did say her demeanor
Melissa, this
was
isn't the time for you to talk, Melissa. We're done rendering the evidence. Sorry, my apologies, Judge. She described the defendant's demeanor. She described her attitude. And she said that left out the back door, went to go put her child in the truck so they could leave. And then at that time, the defendant came back outside, took the child out of the truck. And then that's when things became physical. There was chest bumping, there was more pushing, and Ms. Zerker slapped Ms. Floyd in the face. This is generally supported by what Mr. Floyd said, that he was in the backyard and Ms. Zerker walked up. He clearly had never met this person before because she asked she asked if Melissa was home, she asked who he was, I believe, and then went into the house. Sometime later, came out, described the incident basically the same way. There are a number of questions, Your Honor, that are raised by this and by the defendant's version of the events. The defendant argues that she wasn't there. She was at her home playing cards. I'm wondering, is she described in detail what she also described was a very regular day, something that she does pretty frequently. The details make me wonder how she could remember this day so specifically. How did she remember this date a year ago in April 18th? How does she remember that from March 5th, 2019 or 2021, or from May 7th, 2021, or from May 18th, 2021, or other days in April 2021? So I'm curious how she got the details so down. Mr. Dean, he testified that the defendant was there, but he was downstairs. He was in another room playing with their child, Calvin, the whole time. Well, not the whole time, most of the time. That his focus was on Calvin, and that he was playing video games most of the time. And so he also testified that the defendant. I asked him specifically if somebody would have left out the back door, would you know it? He said, yeah, they could. He agreed that it's possible that somebody could have left, and that he wouldn't know because there were kids running and going, coming and going through that back door. So he may not know if Miss Zerker were to leave. I asked him if it was possible that Miss Zerker could have left for a bit of time. He said it's possible because if she left out the back door, he wouldn't have been able to tell. So I think based on all of this, Your Honor, I think the only people whose stories match fully, and Ms. Zerker, I would like to, I don't believe she mentioned that her new boyfriend was there. I believe that was only Mr. Dean mentioned. And so not even the full cast of characters came out from Ms. Zerker. We've got several wildly different stories from the defense side and 2 stories on the people's side that are fairly the same. And so based on that, Judge, I think it goes to show the truthfulness of Ms. Floyd and Mr. TJ Floyd and the untruthfulness of the defendant and her witnesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bass.
Thank you, Your Honor, and Mr. Burdell. Your Honor, obviously you may disagree because you're the judge and you have to make the decision, but I don't believe the prosecution has proved beyond a reasonable doubt each and every element of this charge. Now, the people say that this, they point out this was a regular day and call into question how my client remembers that day. Well, she's charged with a crime on that day. So of course she's going to think about what happened that day. That's happens in every case. And I have asked her to remember what happened that day, as I do in every case. The people say there's wildly different testimony on the defense side. Actually, there's not. It's entirely consistent. Ms. Zerker testified that she was home that day. It was Mr. Dean's birthday. He came over to spend time with their son, as he has done before, and naturally, he spent time with his son. I fully recognize the alibi defense is not a slam dunk because Mr. Dean was spending time with his son and Ms. Zerker was in other parts of the house. But, it just seems more reasonable to conclude that if the mother of your child is going to leave for several hours, this allegedly occurred, according to Mr. Floyd, at around 2 or 2:30 p.m. Mr. Dean was there from, what was it? I think 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. I know he said he can't say for sure, but I mean, Ms. Zerker testified under oath that she never left. She's there with the father of their child, Calvin. And, I just think it's plausible that if she had left, he would have known that. But of course, I acknowledge he didn't say, he wasn't sure. Tia Floyd, their friend who came over to play cards, they're there on a regular day playing cards. I recognize that she did say she arrived during the day. I think it's fair to conclude that she arrived sometime after this alleged incident, but she also said that Ms. Zerker wasn't upset. They're friends, they're playing cards. Clearly, if something had happened, these two friends playing cards would have talked about it. And Ms. Wright, on the prosecutor's question, said she wasn't upset about anything. Calvin and Abe, that is Mr. Dean, were present when Ms. Wright arrived. So clearly they were all 3 of them were there during the day together at various points during the day. Ms. Floyd, the complaining witness, has a child with Mr. Dean. There were no marks on her face. I noted down no marks. I think she agreed to that. I don't know why TJ Floyd would lie. Maybe the judge believes him or not, but I mean, their testimony was consistent, but it just doesn't make sense, right? And this is why there's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Why would Ms. Zerker go over to someone's house? She has no connection to Amante. Amante is not her child. She's there playing cards. The father of her child, Calvin, is over there. Your Honor, it's just not adding up. And maybe Ms. Floyd has some reason for lying about Ms. Zerker. So, Your Honor, for all those reasons, for the testimony of Ms. Zerker, to the extent it is supported, which I think it is to some extent, by Mr. Dean and Ms. Wright, I'm asking you to find Ms. Zerker not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebuttal, Mr. Burdell.
Thank you, Judge. I'll keep it brief. I have just a few points I want to make. So, on the direct testimony of Miss Melissa Floyd, we brought out a lot of testimony about CPS, and custody came out, and I was expecting the argument to be that this was somehow a motive of Miss Floyd to lie. If that was true, why would Ms. Floyd make this allegation up against Ms. Zerker? Why wouldn't she go directly to Mr. Dean, who is the child's father? Why would she take this sort of circuitous, long sort of backdoor route to somebody who's not even legally it has any involvement with the child she has in common with Mr. Dean? As to, whether or not whether Ms. Zerker has any motivation, Your Honor, this strikes me as sort of a classic love triangle. We have two people who have a child with the same person, and they get territorial over that person, over that child, over perhaps, and we see this pattern. I'm not going to speculate as to what the specific perceived wrongs are, but people do get territorial over their co-parents. And as Ms. Zerker referred to Mr. Dean, she said, I asked, who is that person you, or I can't remember if it was me or Mr. Banis. It was asked, who is Mr. Dean to you? And she said, he is my co-parent. We co-parent our child together. And so to me, Judge, that does go to show a motive. And I won't belabor the rest. The court heard the testimony, saw the photos, which I agree aren't very dispositive. However, I do think that they don't show marks, but I do think you can see in Ms. Floyd's face that something happened to her that day to make her very upset. If you look at it, I mean, I think she looks like a very different person in those photos than she does in the courtroom today. But like I said, the court has seen the photos, so I won't belabor the point. Thank you, Judge. And I do believe that there is guilt beyond a reasonable doubt here.
Thank you. I would agree with the prosecution in terms of the fact that this case turned out to be very different than we all had anticipated. This is a very unique situation, and the court is left to try to figure out whether there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt that these particular crimes were committed. And that's the only thing I have to decide today. In deciding that, I have to look at the credibility of each of the witnesses as they testified. And to my surprise, I think the witness that was the most credible to me in this particular case was Mr. T.J. Floyd. Mr. T.J. Floyd's testimony was that Ms. Zerker came from around the corner, and then she asked where Ms. Melissa Floyd was. She went into the home, and then there was screaming. Both parties were screaming. Ms. Melissa Floyd remarkably couldn't remember anything they were yelling about during that entire time. I think tried to, in some way, shape, or form, minimize whatever activity she had going on in the house. So that begs the question of, first of all, Ms. Zerker has said she didn't go there and she didn't slap anyone. She wasn't there. So the court, in terms of looking at the testimony today, and I strongly advise Ms. Zerker that anything she said could be used against her once she began to testify, and she does not have to present a defense, but when you take the stand, then the court gets to review what it is that you're saying. At some point in time, she said that, first of all, Mr. Dean came and was there from 10 until 5 or 5:30 or somewhere in that range. Mr. Dean could not testify as to where her whereabouts were that entire time because he was with his son, and she could have gone out the back door. Leaves an opening for her being able to leave. She did not mention that her boyfriend was in the home when she was asked who all was present. She did not tell us that he was there. And I think that is relevant because at some point in time, Mr. TJ Floyd said that Ms. Zerker left with someone who was not, or I think Ms. Melissa Floyd testified that Ms. Zerker left with someone who was not anyone that she had seen. So there was this anonymous individual who was present. And Ms. Zerker also testified that she was there until she was at her own apartment until Mr. Dean left. Mr. Dean left, and then she walked to the store. However, her witness, Ms. Tia Wright, testifies that she arrived before Mr. Dean left and that Ms. Zerker never left. So that presents a credibility question for the court in terms of what actually happened, in terms of whether Ms. Wright was there when she said she was or not there. I don't know. But the reality is that it does call into question those witnesses' testimony. At some point in time, Ms. Zerker said the police called while she was playing cards with her friend. And yet Ms. Zerker never got upset over a police call that she was being accused of a crime. That is telling to the court as well. So the testimony of the defense, other than Mr. Dean, has been called into question. The only issue then for the court is what to do about the testimony that came from Mr. Floyd and Ms. Floyd. Ms. Floyd, I think, minimized what was going on and was not willing to say what happened. So the issue of whether or not she was allowed to come into the home becomes questionable for the court, and I don't believe that the prosecution has met their burden of proof as to the breaking and entering. The thing that I think is very clear that Mr. TJ Floyd testified to is that Ms. Zerker was there. There was some fight outside in the parking lot, and they were clearly having an issue, and Ms. Zerker tried to take the child from the back seat. I don't know why. I don't have to decide that. But the reality is that he testified that he saw Ms. Zerker slap Ms. Floyd. And I believe that the prosecution has met their burden of proof with respect to the A and B. Therefore, that is what I find Ms. Zerker guilty of, assault and battery.
Thank you, Judge.
As to the sentencing in this case, it will be on June 13th.